Gandhi's Passion: The Life and Legacy of Mahatma Gandhi by Stanley Wolpert. Chapter 19: War and Peaceful Resistance. The outbreak of World War II served to galvanize and reunite the Congress in opposition to British imperial rule. The Viceroy's autocratic declaration of war without consulting any Congress leader infuriated Nehru and led to Subhas Bose's resignation. The working committee met in Wardha from September 10th to 14th, electing Rajendra Prasad as its new president. Nehru took the lead in drafting the Congress resolution on the war, inviting Great Britain first to declare unequivocally that its war aims included freedom and democracy for India, after which India would cooperate fully in the global struggle against fascism and Nazism. Gandhi personally had argued for a wholly non-violent response, but he had one little support, silently bowing to Nehru's militant majority position. Bose started his own forward bloc party, which openly favored the Axis powers, leading to Subhas's arrest and his subsequent daring escape through Afghanistan to Berlin and from there to Japan. Will Great Britain have an unwilling India dragged into the war or a willing ally cooperating with her in the prosecution of a defense of true democracy? Gandhi asked the press after the working committee agreed upon its resolution. Congress support will mean the greatest moral asset in favor of England and France. Jinnah, on the other hand, met with the Viceroy immediately after his declaration that India was at war, assuring Lord Linlithgow of loyal Muslim support, urging him to turn out the Congress provincial ministries at once. Nothing else will bring them to their senses. They will never stand by you. Gandhi was invited back to Simla by the Viceroy in late September, immediately after their meeting, when he realized in what high regard Linlithgow held Jinnah and his advice. Gandhi wrote an unusual piece on Hindu-Muslim unity. The Muslim League is a great organization, the Mahatma told his Harijan readers. Its president was at one time an ardent congressman. He was the rising hope of Congress. He appealed equally to Congress and League members, urging them all to stop attacking one another and to reconcile differences. If enough of them worked and prayed to achieve Hindu-Muslim unity, Gandhi insisted, God would make it possible tomorrow. On October 3rd, 1939, a day after his 70th birthday, Gandhi sent a message to the British people through the Manchester Guardian's correspondent. It will be a great tragedy in this tragic war if Britain is found to fail in the very first test of sincerity of her professions about democracy. But on October 17th, the Viceroy issued his declaration of His Majesty's government's wartime objectives, none of which satisfied the Congress. For India, the Act of 1935 remained its wartime constitution, and Great Britain would only be prepared to open that act to modification in the light of Indian views after the war ended. The Congress asked for bread and it has got a stone, Gandhi commented. Nehru was even more angry at Lord Zetland's negative remarks about the Congress in the House of Lords, charging that he had learned nothing from events during the past 20 years. Thus, the stage was set for the resignation of Congress provincial ministries, ending the 2-year experiment in Anglo-Congress cooperation. The working committee are of the opinion that the viceregal statement is wholly unsatisfactory and calculated to rouse resentment among all those who are anxious to gain India's independence. Congress's leaders resolved on October 22, 1939. In the circumstances, the committee cannot possibly give any support to Great Britain. The committee call upon the Congress ministries to tender their resignation. Jinnah breathed a deep sigh of relief, but not as yet too loud a sigh. He was reluctant to reveal how delighted he was until every Congress ministry agreed with its impulsive working committee and removed all of its members from the office. Gandhi disliked Nehru's impulsive and angry reactions and knew that the resignation of all Congress provincial governments would strengthen the League and give the British full freedom in militarizing India throughout the war. But he felt too tired to argue with Nehru, so he simply told him to take full charge and lead the country. Nehru was hardly ready, however, to break with Gandhi, so their facade of Congress harmony remained to mask the deepening ideological gulf that divided them. Jinnah Sahib looks to the British power to safeguard the Muslim rights. Gandhi rightly noted on October 30th, 1939. Nothing that the Congress can do or concede will satisfy him. The next day, he left his ashram for Delhi, where he and Rajendra Prasad drove to Jinnah's new house, the number 10 Aurangzeb Road. All three were then driven to Jinnah's new green Packard to the Viceroy's palace, barely a mile away for another brief, futile communal summit. Nehru was now preparing his militant army of ardent followers in the United Provinces for civil revolt, circulating anonymous placards calling upon eager patriots to cut wires and tear up the rails. Gandhi urged restraint, warning him to desist, otherwise I must give up command. So Nehru agreed to meet Jinnah once more to try to bridge the unbridgeable gap. On December 2nd, 1939, Jinnah proclaimed Friday, December 22nd, a day of deliverance and thanks as a mark of relief that the Congress regime has at last ceased to function. The Muslim League's Qaid-e-Azam charged Congress ministries with anti-Muslim policies whenever they held powers. He accused them of undermining Muslim opinion and of seeking to destroy Muslim culture. Gandhi appealed through the press from Wardha to Jinnah to call off that day of deliverance, fearing it would intensify Hindu-Muslim conflicts, but Jinnah refused. Nehru now cancelled their scheduled meeting, saying, I would have to repudiate all nationalism and my self-respect if I were to resume the talk with Mr. Jinnah in the face of his appeal to the Muslims. Nehru repudiated all of Jinnah's discriminatory allegations against Congress ministries, insisting that they were baseless. Gandhi was more prudent, imploring Jinnah and his colleagues to await review by the Viceroy and the governors of those serious allegations before calling upon millions of Muslims to endorse them and condemn the Congress. But Jinnah was unwilling to wait any longer, determined not only to celebrate the demise of Congress ministries, but to demand a separate nation for South Asia's Muslims, which he now resolved to carve out of North India. Before the end of January 1940, Gandhi had received word of Jinnah's idea of calling for separate nationhood for India's Muslims. I hope that Qaid-e-Azam, Jinnah's opinion, is a temporary phase in the history of Muslim League. Gandhi wrote in alarm, Muslims of different provinces can never cut themselves away from their Hindu or Christian brethren. Both Muslims and Christians are converts from Hinduism or are descendants of converts. They do not cease to belong to their provinces because of change of faith. Englishmen who became converts to Islam do not change their nationality. It was his first tentative attempt to avert the disaster of partition, the horror he would call the vivisection of the mother. Still trying to win Congress support for the war, Viceroy Linlithgow invited Gandhi to meet him in New Delhi on February 5, 1940, and saw Jinnah the next day. The Viceroy tried to convince Gandhi that Dominion status was the British goal for India after the war was won. Gandhi insisted that wasn't enough to satisfy the Congress, though he could not officially speak for its working committee, only for India's dumb millions. Asked by reporters what the failure of this latest summit meant, Gandhi replied, I can only say, Heaven help India, Britain, and the world. If Britain cannot recognize India's legitimate claim, what will it mean but Britain's moral bankruptcy? When asked about prospects for reconciliation between the Congress and the League, he replied that he saw none. Nehru viewed all these meetings called by the Viceroy as nothing other than the old game of British imperial duplicity. By March 1940, Gandhi felt certain that there can be no manly peace in the land unless the British bayonet is withdrawn. The risk of riots has to be run. Non-violence will be born out of such risks. But few of his own Congress comrades were convinced any more of their Mahatma's peaceful prescription for freedom and communal harmony. Nor were the British, in the midst of the fiercest war the world had ever experienced, listening to his advice that it was time to sheath every bayonet. Nor did Qaid-e-Azam Jinnah or his leading lieutenants of the Muslim League pay much attention now to what they had come to regard as the futile rantings of a mostly naked old Hindu Vanya. The Congress Working Committee met at Ramgarh March 15th to 19th, 1940, with Maulana Azad presiding. Gandhi attended by special invitation, and Nehru and Patel were there, of course, as well as Khan Abdul Khan and Rajendra Prasad. Most of them favored launching civil disobedience, but Gandhi was against it. What has been done in United Provinces is good, but I cannot evolve non-violence from the awakening created there by Jawaharlal ji. Gandhi warned them. I don't want people to be crushed. If a fight is launched without proper preparations, it is the poor who will suffer. He then offered to withdraw entirely, to remove the incubus of his fear of violence from the committee's deliberations, future decisions and actions. But the Congress Working Committee would not release him. If after 20 years of practice, Gandhi argued, I have not been able to win the affection and trust of the Mussalmans, my ahimsa must be of a very poor quality indeed. I am sure that if you release me, I may be able to give civil disobedience a purer and nobler shape. Azad would not hear of it, however, reminding Gandhi that he had only agreed to wear the Congress crown because Gandhi had pressed him to accept. A week later, the Muslim League met in Lahore. It was the League's largest and most important session. It has always been taken for granted mistakenly that the Mussalmans are a minority. Qaid-e-Azam Jinnah told his attentive audience of some 100,000 Muslims from every state and province of South Asia. The Mussalmans are not a minority. The Mussalmans are a nation. The problem in India is not of an intercommunal but manifestly of an international character, and it must be treated as such. He therefore urged the British to transfer their power after the war to the autonomous national states of South Asia's subcontinent. Next day, the League's Subjects Committee met to hammer out the Pakistan resolution that translated their Qaid's desire into constitutional language. That no constitutional plan would be workable in this country or acceptable to the Muslims unless areas in which the Muslims are a majority, as in the northwestern and eastern zones of India, should be grouped to constitute independent states, autonomous and sovereign. When Jinnah was asked by the press if that meant one or more than one Muslim land of the pure Pakistan, his answer was one. Nehru called it a mad scheme. CR considered it a sign of a diseased mentality that Mr. Jinnah has brought himself to look upon the idea of one India as a misconception and the cause of most of our trouble. Gandhi was more cautious. I'm proud of being Hindu, but I have never gone as a Hindu to secure Hindu Muslim unity. Can a Hindu organization have a Muslim divine as president? I still maintain that there is no Swaraj without Hindu Muslim unity. The Constituent Assembly, as conceived by me, is not intended to coerce anybody. But Jinnah would never agree to join that assembly, nor would any member of his league, destined in 7 years to take power over Pakistan. Gandhi refused at first to take the League's partition demand seriously. Most members of the Congress, like most British officials, considered Pakistan a mere bargaining chip, which the League would use to raise its political demands and muscle within a united dominion of India. Gandhi called the partition scheme an untruth, insisting there could be no compromise with it. Does Islam bind Muslim only to Muslim and antagonize the Hindu? Was the message of the Prophet peace only for and between Muslims and war against the Hindus or non Muslims? Those who are instilling this poison into the Muslim mind are rendering the greatest disservice to Islam. I know that it is not Islam. The advance of Nazi tanks in Norway and Denmark and the daily escalations of deaths made many Indians lose all faith in the power of non-violence, writing to ask Gandhi what was good of his life's message and all his prayers. But Gandhi retained firm faith in ahimsa. He blamed its failure on the weakness and distrust of most of his followers in its divine power and on the religious disunity within India's multicultural society. Charlie Andrews died in Calcutta in April 1940, 3 days after he was successfully operated on. Gandhi never mourned death, not even Charlie's, and he was becoming more deeply impenetrable, withdrawn as the war, the League, and the Congress squabbles took their inexorable toll of his feelings, his strength, his hopes, and fast fading dreams. I cannot say I miss you, he wrote Amrit in May, no longer playfully saluting her as idiot, rebel, or even stupid. I am daily getting more and more detached. I seem to miss nobody and nothing. I have no time to think of these things. Love, Bapu. No longer did he sign himself tyrant or warrior. The war's mad slaughter so depressed him by late May that he wrote the viceroy to offer his personal services to help end the fighting. I am prepared to go to Germany or anywhere required to plead for peace, for the good of mankind. This may be a visionary's idea. Perchance it may be wisdom more than vision. Linlithgow replied that there was nothing for it now but to fight on until victory is won. Gandhi imposed total silence on himself, feeling too impotent to speak and finding all that he said useless to stop the frightful violence now tearing the world apart. Amrit wrote to ask why he had taken a vow of silence. It is to avoid irritation and save my energy, he replied. The output of my work has certainly doubled. Irritation is almost nil. It would be a strain now to speak to another old follower, he wrote. Everything is in a mess. Refusing her request for guidance in trying to organize a women's wing of the Congress, he answered, we are in God's hands. As regards the organization, do as your heart bids you. So he sank ever deeper into solitude and inaction. Just a week before, the Congress Working Committee descended upon him to seek his wise counsel. The Working Committee rejected his appeal to reaffirm Congress' faith in nonviolence. The attempt made by me to form peace brigades to deal with communal riots and the like had wholly failed. He then asked to be released from the committee, feeling it was no longer appropriate to remain when so many fundamental differences were discovered. He now felt himself wandering alone on the cremation ground, he told a dear friend. The Viceroy invited him to Delhi for a private meeting at the end of June, though Gandhi was at pains to explain to Linlithgow that after this most recent meeting with the Working Committee, he could only speak as an individual. The Viceroy indicated that he was ready to advise London to announce that self-governing dominion status for India would be granted within 1 year of the termination of the war. Many commercial, defense, and external affairs details would have to be hammered out, of course, as would the rights of minorities and the position of princes. If Congress agreed, the Viceroy would increase the number of its leaders on his executive council, which would also include representatives of other parties. Gandhi replied that without a prior declaration of independence, Congress was not likely to agree to serve on the council. At the meeting, Gandhi gave the Viceroy his open letter to every Briton. Linlithgow did not pass it along to the British press or His Majesty's government, since Gandhi's appeal to every Briton was that they should all accept non-violence and stop fighting. He argued that this war was a curse and a warning to mankind. He feared that no one and nothing would be spared and that all humans would be reduced to beasts unless hostilities swiftly ended. Though he did not want Britain defeated, he claimed to see no difference between the destruction caused by the Nazis in England and that caused by the Allies in Germany. He seriously suggested that Hitler and Mussolini should be invited to take what they want of Great Britain, and if these gentlemen choose to occupy your homes, you will vacate them. You will allow yourself, man, woman, and child, to be slaughtered. The Viceroy was dumbstruck by Gandhi's letter, unable to utter a word in response, refusing even to call for his car to take the now more deeply despondent Gandhi home. When Gandhi next met Nehru and other members of the Working Committee, he told them of his depressing meeting with the Viceroy and expounded on his ideal hopes for the world and for India. The terrible things that are going on in Europe fill me with anguish, he said, explaining that armies had never appealed to him. The masses were always exploited and forced to give their last penny to support armies that were supposed to defend their hearths and homes. Gandhi wanted instead for Congress now to proclaim that India would defend itself non-violently. CR and Nehru disagreed, insisting, ours is a political organization, or else we cannot function on the political plane. Political realists, Indian and English alike, now viewed Gandhi as hardly more than a visionary in matters of statecraft. The Viceroy and Britain's home government felt, therefore, that it might be best to carry on the war without further wooing and waiting for Congress to join the Allied forces in the monumental global struggle. In mid-September of 1940, Congress met in Bombay, this time resolved to ask Gandhi to take responsibility for leading it in Satyagraha against British repression and in deference to India's passionate longing for freedom. For Gandhi, the invitation from his old comrades on the Working Committee once again to lead them into the wilderness of civil disobedience was too flattering to reject. I have made repeated statements that I would not be guilty of embarrassing the British. when their very existence hung in the balance, he admitted. He added, however, there comes a time when a man in his weakness mistakes vice for virtue. I felt that if I did not go to the assistance of the Congress and take the helm, even if it be in fear and trembling, I would be untrue to myself. Overcoming all uncertainty and reticence, he thus agreed to lead his sorely divided party into battle against the world's mightiest Raj. Gandhi met with Linlithgow in Simla on 28th September and 30th, 1940, but neither moved from his position of entrenched antipathy. It is a matter of deep regret to me that the government have not been able to appreciate the Congress position, Gandhi informed the Viceroy before departing. Since you and the Secretary of State for India have declared that the whole of India is voluntarily helping the war effort, it becomes necessary to make clear that the vast majority of the people of India are not interested in it. They make no distinction between Nazism and the double autocracy that rules India. Gandhi now decided to launch an individual rather than mass satyagraha. He chose as his first satyagrahi not Nehru, who was most eager to be selected but quite unassuming, Vinoba Bhave. To explain why he chose an unknown rather than flamboyant Pandit Nehru to serve as his surrogate, Gandhi wrote about him at length in Harijan, answering the widely asked question, who is Vinoba Bhave and why has he been selected? He elaborated first upon the Sanskritic, scholarly and cotton spinning virtues of the painfully thin, obscure man, soon to be revered as India's walking saint. Vinoba would devote the last decades of his life after Gandhi's murder to walking the length and breadth of India's village hinterland, seeking land for the landless and dedicating his frail body to the task of translating his Mahatma's dream of Sarvodaya, the uplift of all, into socio-economic reality. He believes in communal unity with the same passion that I have, Gandhi continued. He has never been in limelight on the political platform. He believes that silent constructive work is far more effective. Vinoba is an out-and-out war resistor. In direct violation of British gag order against anti-war speech, Vinoba addressed over 300 persons in central India on October 17th, asking why Britain claimed to fight for democracy when she continued to deny it to India. Gandhi wrote to inform the Viceroy of that breach of British ban. Each day, prior to his arrest, Vinoba continued to speak out in the same firm but non-violent voice in opposition to the war. At 3 a.m. on October 21st, 1940, Vinoba was arrested. Now Gandhi had a long list of volunteers. His second choice was Jawaharlal, who was, of course, ready. But Gandhi remained unsure of Nehru's true feelings, hence, he wrote to probe his mind. I would still like to ask you whether you can see anything to commend itself to you in all I am writing and doing. My present conception requires those who believe in the plan, not in every detail but in the main. Nehru cabled at once. Agree generally. 2 days later, Gandhi summoned him to Wardha and gave him his marching instructions. On October 31st, 1940, Nehru was arrested in the United Provinces and found guilty of sedition for 3 speeches he had made to villagers earlier in the month. At 51, the man destined in little more than half a decade to become India's first Prime Minister was sentenced in Gorakhpur to 4 years of rigorous imprisonment. Gandhi, however, still remained free. He had expected and hoped since early November to be taken off at any moment, but the government was in no rush. recalling the troublesome popular reactions to his previous arrests and reluctant to cause so much of a stir in the midst of a war. Gandhi knew that the British had no faith in his non-violence. He now suspected that the viceroy and other officials believed him a fool, the unwitting tool of Congress colleagues who used his idealism as a cloak for hiding their violence. Throughout the war, Hindu-Muslim tensions and conflict mounted, taking a growing toll of lives. On May 1, 1941, Hindu-Muslim riots in Dhaka claimed so many that Gandhi was deeply saddened to see that Congress influence was practically unfelt during the dark days. He passionately cried out, "We have proved ourselves barbarians and cowards. Arson, loot, and killing of innocent people, including children, have been common. Thousands fled from their homes, while other villagers who tried to defend themselves against Muslims or Hindu fanatics were cut down in cold blood. The British abdicated all responsibility for protecting the innocent, and the Congress did nothing to fill the utter void in civil defense." The new British Secretary of State for India, Leo Amery, insisted, however, that Indian political parties had only to agree among themselves for Great Britain to register the will of a united India. Gandhi angrily responded, "I'm amazed at Mr. Amery's effrontery in saying that the Congress wants all or nothing," and refused even to discuss the matter. Before the end of May, Hindu-Muslim riots had ravaged Ahmedabad, Bombay, and Bihar as well as Bengal. The riots this time have no resemblance to the former ones, Gandhi wrote Agatha Harrison. This time it is a rehearsal for a civil war. His once robust faith in British fairness and justice was so rudely shaken as to make him wonder if British had ever been truthful with India. Each time the Secretary of State spoke, Gandhi felt the breach widening or sensed himself lost in a land of make-believe. Still, he refused to surrender all hope in despair, passionately insisting that his ahimsa was working, though silently and tortuously slow. He decided then to fast for 24 hours for the sake of Hindu-Muslim unity. 7 Ashramites joined in that day's abstinence from food. But still, the riots continued. Many of Gandhi's followers questioned the wisdom of his strategy of sending just a few individuals out to court prison, while others claiming to be satyagrahis roamed India's streets and preached against the war, yet were ignored by police and officials. How can such a struggle be effective? They asked him. In ahimsa, there is no scope for sudden miracles, Gandhi explained. He preached patience, urging them to pray as passionately as he did. Defeat has no place in the dictionary of ahimsa. To celebrate Gandhi's 72nd birthday, villagers all around his ashram brought millions of yards of hand-spun cotton and 12,000 rupees they had collected for him to distribute among the poorest of the poor. To thank them, he spoke from his heart of his dreams, insisting that there could be no true Swaraj as long as exploitation impoverished most of them. Mere change from British to Indian exploiters did not mean Swaraj, he argued. As long as the poor remain poor or become poorer, there will be no Swaraj. In my Swaraj, millions will live happily. They will get food, decent houses, and enough clothing. His passionate life's message, however, went far beyond achieving self-sufficiency in food, housing, and hand-spun cottons. The greatest power of ahimsa's deep roots applied to the polity of his dream as well. There are only two courses open, either Hitler's, that is, the way of violence, or mine, that is, the way of nonviolence. Hitlerism and Churchillism are in fact the same thing. It is my belief that a time will come when everyone in India will realize that the only correct course is to follow ahimsa. It seems that Gandhi was completely unaware of the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor. He did not, at any rate, remark about the United States joining the war until December 20th, 1941, when he responded to questions from the press. I cannot welcome this entry of America, the one country which could have saved the world from the unthinkable butchery that is going on. He then reasserted that his commitment is to non-violence. In his address to a meeting of the Congress Working Committee in Wardha, Gandhi said that if he were Viceroy of India today, he would not ask India to take up the sword to keep the empire alive. I, for one, should feel that I was committing moral suicide, abandoning the faith of a lifetime. I have been taunted as a banya, Gandhi told his dear friends of the working committee. How can I help it? I was born in a banya. I shall stay a banya and shall die a banya. Trade is my profession. I am trading with you and with the world. The article in my possession is an invaluable pearl. I am a trader in ahimsa. Those who can pay the price for it may have it. You have taken a pledge that you would win Swaraj only through ahimsa. Today, you are ready to depart from it. This bargain will not bring you complete independence. Gandhi's personal feelings of goodwill to all and his sweetness even to the Viceroy at this time of severe stress, hardship, and bitter conflict shone through in an exchange of letters with Linlithgow in February 1942. Banya that he was, Gandhi wrote to request the Viceroy's help, of course, in waiving taxes imposed by Bombay on his All India Spinners Association. You will forgive me for inflicting this on you when every moment of yours is pre-mortgaged for winning the war, Gandhi concluded, adding his love to Linlithgow's daughter, son-in-law, and grandchild. The request for tax exemption was not granted by his lordship, but Bapu's sweetness elicited an equally charming postscript. I will give your message to Sudbi and my daughter, and I know they will value it. Richard is the most wonderful baby, the very flower of the flock. That postscript, Gandhi wrote in his deep reply, breaks the pervading gloom. I wish the general public had the privilege of knowing that your cheerfulness never forsakes you. So shone the light of his faith in ahimsa, piercing the wartime darkness and helping to overcome the war's all but fatal blitz to bonds of friendship, forged over the past century in London, Bombay, Calcutta, and New Delhi. The lightning Japanese conquest of Singapore in February 1942 and the humiliating surrender of its garrison of 60,000 Indian troops, soon to be reincarnated as the Indian National Army of Subhas Bose, shook Britain enough to launch a diplomatic initiative to win India's support for the war a month later. Sir Stafford Cripps, leader of the House of Commons and one of the Labour's prime ministers in waiting, was selected by Churchill and his cabinet's Labour deputy, Prime Minister Clement Attlee, to fly to India with an offer of dominion status immediately after victory if India would agree to help win the war. Cripps landed in Karachi on May 22nd and touched down in Delhi the next day, Pakistan Day, where a mile-long procession of Muslims marched to hear their Quaid-e-Azam speak to an overflow crowd in Urdu Park. We are asking for justice and fair play, Jinnah said. We have no designs upon our sister communities. We are not a minority, but a nation.